Well, thank you so much for participating in my project.
Sure, no problem.
Could you say a little bit about yourself?
I'm Doug Loss. I'm the president of the board of directors of the Interstellar Research Group. We're the organization that's putting on our 7th Interstellar Symposium here in Tucson. And we try to do this every other year. We initially tried to do it every 18 months, but we had a number of the folks involved in interstellar exploration studies say, we don't have anything new to tell you that frequently. You've got to spread things out a bit so we can come to each one of them and tell you things. So I said, sure, every other year then. So.
I feel like the same things happen with email. You know, you like have family members you used to mail maybe like once a month or once every 2 months, and you have things now. It's like you immediately get the email, you don't know what to say.
I telephone my son every week on Saturday and say, hi, what's new? Nothing. What's new with you? No, nothing new here. See you later.
How old is your son?
29.
29, okay. My oldest son is 23, and my younger one just turned 19. So we have similar conversations. But so how'd you get into this?
Well, many years ago, I was the organizer of the Asimov seminars, which were science fiction based seminars with Isaac Asimov as the keynote speaker at each seminar. The topic was different from year to year, but there was always an underlying scientific aspect to it. Not necessarily space exploration, but some scientific aspect for the seminar goers to explore. After we ended those in early 2000s, maybe late 1990s, I basically went into hiatus until my wife and I moved to East Tennessee and got involved in the science fiction community there, and through that with the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop, which eventually became the Interstellar Research Group when we decided to not limit ourselves to the Tennessee River Valley. Tennessee River Valley because Oak Ridge, Tennessee, well known for nuclear work. Huntsville, Alabama, big NASA facility. These are all in the Tennessee River Valley. But when we decided we were going to hold a symposium in Wichita, Kansas, we said, well, we probably better rename the organization.
Yeah, it's amazing how things grow beyond their names sometimes.
Well, to be honest, our advisory group of scientists and other interested people said, you really need to change the name. And we said, yeah, we'll get around to it. And they said, no, you really need to change the name or we're going to quit.
Oh, no.
I said, yep, okay, new name.
So when did you find out that NASA was planning to send people to the moon in 2024 for the first time since 1972?
When did we find out? Well, and I'm speaking for myself because as an organization I haven't really talked about it because the moon is just too close. I've been there, done that. But yeah, we followed this information and went through the Space Exploration Initiative and the Constellation Program and Artemis, and we say, okay, these sound awfully similar. We'll see what actually happens. To be honest, personally, I would not be surprised if Elon Musk doesn't say, you know, the heck with you, and land his own human lander on the moon before NASA does.
Well, I mean, he's already planning to send a group of artists that's being financed by a Japanese billionaire around the moon in 2023.
And the space launch system that they're developing, it's billions of dollars over cost. It's years and years past its due date. We'll see if it flies. I mean, what can I say?
But what do you think about us going to the moon? You mentioned, we've been there and done that. It may put it outside the realm of like IRG, but just from the progress of humanity, I mean, is it really a fully explored thing that we really should be spending more energy on, or what's your thoughts?
We did have a speaker here just the other day talking about going to the moon versus going to near-Earth asteroids. Honestly, to me it makes a lot more sense from a exploration standpoint to go to the asteroids first. And I don't mean the between Mars and Jupiter asteroids. I mean the Earth-crossing asteroids, the ones that are near enough to get to and get back that might have economic impact. They haven't been explored. The moon, it's nice, it's there. Are there resources you can get from the moon? Nothing you can't get easier from those near-Earth asteroids. So the question is, why are you going there? Is there new science you're going to do? If not, why are you going there? If there is, yeah, state it. Now, there are some benefits to the moon. If they do find actual lava tubes, which are underground caves, these might be convertible into large-scale human facilities on the moon. We saw talk today about a lunar ark. Lunar ark being a way of saving genetic material from various plants and animals on the Earth in case of extinction, whatever reason. This is a valid reason. You've got to find these things first, of course, and you've got to have a program to do it. Talking about a lunar ark is not the same thing as Artemis saying, okay, we're going to find one and build something. That's a government thing, and governments generally are responsive to, well, especially the United States government, to programs that provide jobs in as many congressional districts as possible.
Which is another way to say the ones that are least efficient. Because
that's the way it's been.
Yeah.
That's the way it always is. I mean, and you can't expect it to be different. I mean, we're going far afield from outer space, but that's just the structure of the organization. Any organization that is dependent on funding by the general public is going to have to provide benefits to as much of the general public as possible. And let's face it, interstellar exploration does not do that. In fact, solar system exploration doesn't really do that. Now, Earth-crossing asteroids, if you can return them here, if you can actually process them and get materials from them less expensively than you could get on Earth, let's say rare earth elements, which are going to be a bottleneck in the near future because most of them are coming from a few specific countries that may decide that if you can only get them here, you can only get them by paying us a lot of money. These are things that are worth investigating, but it's all going to become, not completely, but at least in a good part, an economic question. As you heard during lunch, our speaker who was talking about the U.S. Space Force and talking about the possibility of it becoming more akin to the British Navy in the mid-19th century, where they weren't there specifically to defeat other navies. They were there to protect trade routes. They were there to do exploration. That's kind of what we're talking about. I'm not sure that an organization as tied to a government as the U.S. Space Force currently is likely to do that. But like the exploration of the American and Canadian West, which was done almost entirely by private companies and individuals, I think we could see some of that.
And there's a lot of things that are needed to support military missions that have big civilian things
exactly.
Like GPS, geospatial data, kind of understanding.
Well, and going back to the settling of the North American West analogy, the military did put forts out there. Those forts were to be available to protect trade routes and the settlers. But you also had railroads building those trade routes. And those railroads were also creating towns. Wherever the railroad had to stop for watering their trains became a town. That's how we got the infrastructure that was necessary. And that infrastructure will have to be developed in space also. As we were talking about space traffic management, you got to have some rules of the road.
Right.
It's not really a road, but you've got to have ideas of how close you can get to another craft, communications, things of this nature. Don't throw away your spent rocket stages without marking them so people can keep track of them. Stuff like this.
And one day trash becomes tomorrow's treasure.
Well, and in fact, we were talking about that just the other day. Everyone talks about space junk, and we've got to deorbit it. My immediate first inclination is, you pay a lot of money to put stuff into space. Why don't you just consider it feedstock and make other stuff out of it after it's up there?
Absolutely.
Well, the answer is because salvage law, as we know it here on Earth, doesn't apply. Everything that's up there, down to the smallest bolt, is the responsibility of the country that launched it, or the country that was responsible for the company that launched it.
Sure.
So you don't get to just go say, oh, there's a bolt, nobody will want that, we're going to use it. No, if it belongs to New Zealand, then it's New Zealand's. Now, would they say anything about it? Who knows? If I were a company looking into this sort of thing and had a method to make use of this material, I think I would go to New Zealand. Probably the United States has the most of it, but a company or a country that might be willing to do so and say, you've got all that stuff up there, which is a hazard to international navigation in space. I'll take it off your hands, and you only have to pay me $10 a pound. Yeah, they probably wouldn't go for it. But, if you can get them to sign it over to you so that it is now your material, well, then you can do what you want. So, is anyone doing this? I have no idea. But it seems like a neat idea to me. I know there is work on in situ resource utilization, which means breaking down materials. Somebody else said of the space junk that's up there, 50% of it, approximately, is used solar panels. And sure, they've degraded. They're only putting out perhaps 50% of their initial output. That's still 50% that you didn't have before.
That's true. You do something with it.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a power source.
Well, if it was safe and affordable, would you personally go to space?
In a heartbeat.
How far would you go? Just
my
orbit?
wife would be upset about it, but I'd go.
And that's a good question. I'm suffering with the same challenges. I was wondering if you had some insight into how to make some progress on that discussion.
Tell her, I'm going out for a bit, honey. I'll be right back. I have no idea.
Okay.
That's pretty clear, I think, isn't it? Would I go? Sure. How far would I go? It all depends on, I don't want to say the mission, but just going up to look around, that would be kind of boring. If there was a purpose, I'd have to look at what the purpose is and, weigh the costs and the benefits. Are we going to go explore a near-Earth asteroid to see what kind of material we can get and make use of? Great idea. Will it take 9 months to do? Now I got to think about it. Not just because of me, because 9 months, sure, no problem. But there's earthbound responsibilities that we all have, and you got to weigh those. If it's your occupation, that's one thing. If it's your avocation, that's something entirely different.
Some would argue that maybe your avocation is more important than your occupation.
Yeah, but then your relationships are pretty important too.
That's true.
So, I mean, we're none of us. What did John Donne say? No man is an island. So, you got to be an archipelago and pay attention to those adjacent islands.
Now, Andy Weir, I guess, was trying to figure out why would people go to the moon, and he said that tourism was pretty much the only reason that he could come up with. And you just mentioned visiting an asteroid. I mean, I imagine from like a personal experience standpoint, a trip to the moon would be a lot more quote unquote fun than maybe in orbit or visiting an asteroid or something like that.
For the tourist stuff, yeah, it probably would be. Visiting an asteroid, it's a working vacation. Trip to the moon, you get to jump around and stuff.
Jump around.
Drive that rover and bounce off the crater walls and stuff like that. There are some valid uses for the moon. As we said, the lunar lava tubes. If you can find one of those, you've got a lot of potential real estate that you could convert into hotels. And tourism, after all. People got to stay somewhere. And if you're on the moon, you're outside of the Earth's magnetic field, so you don't get the radiation shielding. And the only thing you're going to do for that is either spaceship or dirt, regolith. So, well,
we probably should. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.